Okay, so in this video we will do a quick tutorial on how to install and connect your Hyper HR to the computer. Just first go to topconpositioning.com, sign up or log in if you don't have a login yet. So I have my username over here and my password over here, so I'll just sign in. And what we're doing in this video is we're downloading the USB drivers if you don't already have them. So in order to connect the Hyper HR, just go to My Topcon, and under My Topcon, if you don't have it in the list down here, I have a lot of stuff here, but I'll ignore this for the purpose of the video. We'll go into Products, and to download the USB drivers, you scroll all the way past the actual GNSS solutions. You go to the Utilities portion, which is the Topcon receiver utility right here. So let me click this, and under here you can actually select to follow this product if you want it in that sidebar up in your My Topcon devices or My Topcon homepage. But we'll just hit firmware and updates over here, and if you're subscribing, you will actually see any time of new versions that might be out there. I can ignore this one because that's the version I actually have, but it'll warn you if there's a newer version. So we're using a Hyper HR, so I'll hit download. Hyper HR will then download, and it's a small file, so it won't take too long, but you can open up the folder with it with your download. If it's a zip, you can double click it, and I recommend already unzipping it. So just highlight the two folders that are in the zip file and copy them out into maybe a desktop folder. So we'll make a new folder, call it Hyper HR USB drivers maybe. Alright, so we'll double click this, and then we'll just paste the two folders from that zip on here. Okay, so we're ready, which means now prerequisite for doing anything with the Hyper HR would be installing Topcon receiver utility, which is in a separate video. But if you already have Topcon receiver utility, in order to view your Hyper SR or HR, would be to simply get the receiver managing mode inside this utility, or if you're doing uploading firmware, you might actually hit the firmware loading. But for today, we'll just do the receiver managing just to connect to the receiver. So if I don't have anything connected, I can hit connect, and you will see that there's not going to be anything in my settings, and there's just going to be a placeholder for some settings here, which were by me having connected a different receiver to the Topcon receiver utility. But let me connect my cable to my computer. It's a USB to micro cable. My Hyper HR is, I recommend always having it plugged in if you're going to do firmware updates. If you're just doing a quick settings check, then you don't have to have it plugged into the settings to power. So I plugged in the Hyper HR. It is on. The computer will always complains about problems, but if the Hyper HR was on initially and the computer recognizes it as a device, you might actually see a screen that comes up with like disk contents, and these are the contents of the actual Hyper HR that's connected to your computer. If you don't get to this screen, you might not be able to do this. So if you go into connect, you're using, even though you're using USB, you don't pick USB as your device because there's going to be nothing in here. You actually need to select serial port, and then under serial ports, if your drivers are installed properly, you should have a serial USB serial device here. When you hit the OK button, it should connect. Now we'll have a COM3 connection, and it'll also show you that there's a base connected here. And if I go into information, you can actually see that there's a connection that was established to a receiver here that's sitting on my desk here. But if you don't get to this point, your problem is going to be those drivers that we installed might not actually be on your computer or installed on the operating system. In order to install them properly, what you may want to do is you will have to go into Device Manager, and Windows recommends already the Device Manager, And on the device manager, you will have, I do not have it right now, but you will have a device that will be possibly called Hyper HR with an exclamation mark. If you have that exclamation mark on any device, you can always right click it and you can do an update driver. And this is where you have downloaded and unzipped those folders, or those, yeah, 2 folders for the USB drivers. So I'll go into browse my computer for the software. We'll actually find the drivers that are sitting on my desktop. So we'll go here, we'll go here, there we go. And these are the actual drivers that I'll reinstall. Here we'll do include subfolders, we'll hit next, and the computer will complain, but it'll still say, I want to install this. So we'll hit install. Windows has successfully updated your drivers. So now even you should have it saying gadget serial. If it's at a little exclamation mark, it's not going to say Hyper HR, but the gadget serial comp3 is now there. You can now close this, and once again, if we're going in here, it'll change now, because obviously it's reading it from a different driver, but now it says gadget serial. It's still connected to the same USB cable. When I hit connect, you'll see that the initial connection is still there. So this is how you want to browse your settings and maybe check your firmware on the actual receivers. All right, don't forget to disconnect when you're actually finished. Hopefully this video was helpful, and I'll see you next time.